Hi, this is the Philosophical Angle program, and I am your host, Chris Angle. And if you do a search on me in Audible or Amazon, search my entire name, Christopher Angle, as the magician shows up if you just say Chris Angle. So I'm the author of 5 books on philosophy, known as the Detmar-Haskell Dialogues, and they're the nature of aesthetics, the nature of ethics, the nature of truth, the philosophical equations of economics, the nature of the political left and right, which is my most recent one. And if you'd like to contact us and make comment, give us an email at detmar.haskell, Haskell spelled with 2 L's at the end, at icloud.com. The purpose of the Philosophical Angle is to examine the nature of concepts and ideas in current media. And this week, we're going to, the episode is entitled, Why the Left Mocks the Prayers for Charlie Kirk. I think most everybody out there has heard about the reaction by some of the left mocking people who made prayers for religious services or for moments of silence in honor of the life of Charlie Kirk. I've also heard the ancient philosopher's expression, never say ill of the dead. So the conservative right is having a difficult time understanding this. Why is it that the people on the left have made fun of Charlie Kirk on the right and the prayers for him? The mocking of prayer is very difficult to assimilate by the conservative right, and they would have a difficult time understanding the criticism and consider it to be thoroughly insensitive. So how and why would they do this? Well, fortunately, you are tuned in to the Philosophical Angle Show. We will explain. The explanation needs to start with a little bit of history. I think it was George Santayana who said something like, to know your future, you must know your past. So let's do that first. Throughout history, societies have always been ruled by the kings and queens and their nobles and the aristocracy, and we will call these societies haves. These kings and queens ruled over the have-nots, also known as the serfs, the proletariats, the slaves, so on and so forth. During this tenure of the haves ruling over the have-nots and all of society, they have produced thousands of wars, conflicts, misery, unhappiness, death, and whatnot. It's amazing, their record. But anyway, they've been doing it for the last 5,000 years. Over the same period, the have-nots have worked for the haves. They fight their wars. They till their fields. They manage their land. They do whatever is needed to be done. Whatever that has been asked of them, they did. Well, it's a pretty good gig if you're a have. All you have to do is to ask the have-not to do whatever you need to get done, including fighting your wars and providing food for your table, and voila, it's done by the have-nots. So actually, you wouldn't, if you were a have, you wouldn't want to give this situation. And so the haves never have. However, in the late 1700s, there were a couple of revolutions, namely the American Revolution and the French Revolution. After these 2 revolutions, something changed. And that was that they, the haves, have had to start convincing the have-nots to vote for them, to vote for the haves. And the haves didn't like this idea, and they have fought it ever since. All throughout this time, the haves have developed a condescending approach to the have-nots. They have always looked down upon them, declared that they are not royal blood, so that there was always a barrier between the two classes, between the aristocracy and the have-nots. The haves have always treated the have-nots as property, not as human beings. The haves fought to maintain control over the have-nots, and so the purpose of the haves is to maintain, foster, and consolidate their control over society, over the have-nots. Okay, why is that? Well, the kings and queens have always fought for control over their serfs and slaves. And now, the governmental aristocracies and governments have always fought to maintain totalitarian control. And when they achieve totalitarian control, that is the ultimate goal. What the left wants to see is total control and total regulation over society. The more a society is of the left, the more it is totalitarian. The opposite of that is the conservatives' objective, for lesser control and more freedom for individuals and society. A modern example of political parties who are for freedom would be the Libertarian Party and the conservative Republicans. Now, there are 7 respective dictums that rule the behavior of the left and right. The dictums of the left are predicated upon extending control of society, and the principles of the right are directed toward introducing greater freedom for mankind. As such, the Dems are the inheritors of the dictums of the haves, as the Dems look to control greater control of society, as is the want of the totalitarians and the emperors and the kings and queens of yore. The conservative Republicans and libertarians look to revolt against control, and as such, they look to bring freedom to society. So, now we are ready to go over these dicta if we're going to find out the answer to our original question of why Democrats will criticize and make fun of the Republican conservatives praying over the horrible assassination of Charlie Kirk. The conservatives are all deeply sad that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, while some on the left seem to be gleeful. Why is this? It originates in dictum number 3, that the leftist looks at a have-not and concludes that the have-not is of a bad nature, that he is inherently bad, and is no good, which is a natural thing because he is of low birth and does not have royal blood. As such, he is looked down upon. But still, that is not the entire story, because the have-not is looked down upon with scorn, just as the leftists looked down upon those who prayed for Charlie Kirk with scorn. Why, though? Because, as Marx opined, Religion is the opium of the masses, also known as the have-nots. And the haves know this. So the Democrat haves know that these have-nots are seeking solace in their prayers and mocking it and pitying it as they know better. But you may say the leftist libs that were making fun of the prayers of the have-nots are all not really of the haves. Some of them didn't look like they were of the aristocracy. They may or may not be of the haves, but they will be followers of the royal aristocracy. They will be believers in Dictum 3, that the have-nots are no good. These wannabe haves will be the totalitarians' useful idiots. Thanks for joining me on the philosophical angle. And here's a little picture of the latest book. The difference between the nature of the difference. What am I saying? The nature of the left and right. Take a look. Thanks very much.